Oh, good. Finally, it looks like we are finally live. Yay. I mean, to get on this platform when you're traveling is seems like almost impossible. But welcome everybody. I'm so glad to be here and talk to you tonight. Well, it's nighttime here. I'm in Portugal, traveling again. I made another exit, but this one's not permanent. It's more like a just exploration exit from Spain. Well, from the US to Spain to here. But welcome. How's everybody doing? What time is it in the US? It's like 3 or 2 o'clock. I'm not sure. But anyway, welcome. If you're on the replay, you'll probably get this intro. Then when you watch it, I hope that you enjoy this because I wanted to talk about the weight of staying too long. And, you know, it's something that I hear a lot of us talking about, male and female, about staying too long in situations that we should just be leaving, we should be bouncing from. So that's what I want to talk to you about tonight. So, night meaning here in Portugal. But hey, how's everybody? And what does that mean to you about staying too long? Like I said, we tend to stay in situations way too long, whether it's jobs, whether it is relationships, whether it is, no matter what it is, it's hard for us a lot of times to admit that we're staying in a place where it's no longer serving us. Why is that? And that's what I want to talk about this evening on this live tonight. So, and also, let me just say this isn't about shaming, it's about talking about your journey, it's about putting a name to what it is. Because if you don't have a name for what you're going through, if you don't have a name for being in that stuck place, or staying too long with that person or in that job, then it's hard to decipher exactly what you're doing because you need to be able to name it so you can put a boundary on it, right? So when you do that, you're really helping yourself to get free. That's what you're doing. Because as long as you don't name it, you're really stuck in that situation. And freedom is right on the other side. So we want to go step by step and put the pieces together of how we can break free. I just have some notes, a few notes, so that's why I'm looking down because I don't, I'm older now, so I don't want to forget what I'm talking about. But when you can finally talk about, like I said, and acknowledge it, you have to acknowledge it, not just talk about it and chat to other people and hear what they're going through. You have to acknowledge that, yeah, I'm in this place, or I'm not with the right person, or you know what, I should leave that job. It's not for me anymore, and they're not going to do anything more for me, for my career. Then, then you're saying something. Okay. Then you're on the roadmap to get free. Um, and I want to share my intention with you this evening about this topic. And hopefully, what time is it? I'm not going to keep you too long because I do want to. Everybody has busy lives. I haven't even eaten dinner. I had a rental car. I had to return it, and that was like an hour from here, an hour back. So I'm hungry. So, but I wanted to come on tonight and talk to you all about this topic and get some feedback about what you think about it. So if this resonates with you, um, when you're watching the replay, just remember to give it a thumbs up and make a comment in the comment section as well. So let's get into this. So staying too long. What if it's what if it's a relationship that feels emotionally drained? I mean, it's just draining so much of you every day. Your fuel tank is so low, that the check engine light is now on. And you get in your car every single time you see that light, and then dread comes over you because all of a sudden you think of, okay, mechanic bills and tow truck service, and how am I going to handle all of this? And am I going to be able to have the car back in time so I can get my kids picked up from school? All of that goes through your head when you are feeling emotionally drained and stuck in a place. And in this situation, it's your car with the check engine light on. All right. And also, when you're drained, you feel like you've just poured out so much to others, whether it's your job, whether it's a spouse, partner, whether you could be even with your kids, your grown kids who they've already flown the coop. You've already instilled in them what they need to know, but you still feel like you need to help guide them. Now it's time to, like, okay, baby, I've taught you all you need to know and all I could give you. Now it's time for you to fly. But why don't we do that with ourselves? Why don't we give ourselves permission to flourish? And if that's happening to you, just put that in the comments. Just put the word fly in the comment. Yeah, put that word fly. I'm ready to fly in the comments. Yeah. Because that's how I felt for a long time. Like I'm, after I got out of that stuck place, I was like, you know what? I'm ready to fly. Yeah. And staying too long, like I said, could be a job that just, maybe you liked it at first, because the job that I had for a number of years, I loved it at first. But then after a while, I no longer felt like it lit me up. I felt dread going there every day in and day out. And so I knew that, okay, I have to make a change from that. And to be clear, when you go through this, it's really you recognizing that you're outgrowing who you used to be. And when you do that, when you feel that way, it means that you just are ready for something more. And how do you get to that place? How do you get to that next level? Because it is a flying level, it is going up. And the other thing that I want to mention is that when you are staying too long, it's not always visible to others. And you might not realize that, like you could be going through something really traumatic, and you know how we hold everything inside, but you might not be exhibiting it on the outside. You think you're not, but people know. They see you. People who know you and they see you day in and day out, they know. But why do they not acknowledge it? Why don't they say, hey, I see you're going through this, or take the day off? What? At work? Take a day off? Is that what my boss is telling me? Take a day off? Or your partner is saying, you know what? I think you need a little vacation from the kids, or you need a little vacation from me. Would your partner ever grant you that? Would your partner ever give you permission to do that? And that's the whole point. We don't need permission for things like that. When it comes to self-care and things that we need, we shouldn't have to get somebody else's permission, right? Because what happens is when they give their permission, or when they acknowledge what's going on in us, then that means they have to change something, right? They have to change their normal routine to accommodate us. And nobody wants to change. Our brains don't want to change. Our brains want to stay exactly in the situation that they're in. Why? Because it's comfortable. Our brains always seek comfort. So when we want to make a change right away, our brains is sending all these signals like warning, warning, Will Robinson, danger. And we may really want to get to the other side, but we can't because our brain has instilled in us so much fear that we're like, you know what? We better not. Because if we take that money out of our savings to follow our dream or our vision, we might be bankrupt. I mean, there's all types of reasons why we don't we don't move and take action. But I'm here to tell you, you got to tell that medulla oblongata in the back of your head there, you got to be in control of that. Say, MO, you got to go. That's what I call the medulla oblongata. MO, you got to go. You got to tell it. You got to tell it like it is. You got to name it and say, you have to go. Not meaning your brain has to go, but you know what I mean. That fear, you got to flick it away. Yeah. Because you are in control. And the more the more you stretch yourself and stretch that rubber band, the further you'll be able to go. That's how it works. What else did I want to talk to you about? And let's talk about what it costs you. What does it cost you when you stay too long? It certainly costs you the mental angst, right? It costs you emotional anxiety, maybe even burnout, resentment. It has a lot of names for staying too long. And you can have all of those things or one of them, but it doesn't negate the fact that you're still experiencing it because you're staying too long. And what happens is the people in our lives bear the brunt of it, even our kids. We can start getting irritated with them or hot tempered when they're around, if they ask us for something. Mom, can I go outside? What do you mean go outside? You can't go outside. I'm just kidding, but it could be anything. So we want to make sure that we're addressing this and call it for what it is and recognize it. Staying too long can take a physical toll. And I, for one, can tell you that the physical toll that it took on my body, that stress, I had to commute 1.25 hours to work, 1.25 hours home from work, stayed there for 12 hours, but just the commute to work and all that traffic when it should have only taken 20 minutes, because that's how the distance it should take with no traffic, every single day, day in and day out. When I got out of the car in the mornings, after I was gripping the steering wheel and sometimes just pondered my life sitting there, after I finally would get up and get out of the car, I could barely walk sometime. I kid you not, I could barely walk because of the pain that it felt. I had bent myself into a pretzel for 1 hour and 15 minutes, and I'm in my 50s. My body was not happy. And it took me, I would say, a good hour to get into I would get into my office, but it would take me about a good hour to sometimes I would stretch in the office, or sometimes I had to hit the ground running, go down the hallway, go to different, offices and meet with people and stuff. And it would take a while for that pain to somewhat subside. So I say all that to say, I know the physical toll that staying too long can take, because I say that it was staying too long because you know what? I didn't need to stay at that job. I did not need to stay there. I thought I did. I thought I needed to stay there, not only because they would tell me, oh, nobody else can do what you do. They always give you that line, nobody can do what you do, or we need you because this is coming down the pike and we need help with this or that. But honey, when they get ready to replace you, what do I always say? They will replace you in 2 weeks. 2 weeks time, tops. Yeah. And the only times that they don't replace you is because they're going to just take that money they were paying you, take that salary and pocket it. You think they're going to spread it around to everybody else? No. No. They're absorbing that money and going on vacation. Yeah. Or putting it on their next boat or something. And let's not forget the spiritual toll. Staying too long takes a spiritual toll. It took a spiritual toll on me because I am a prayer warrior. And I stopped praying as much. And I stopped going to church. And if you know me, you know that prayer and church especially is a big part of my life. And for me to stop going to church was huge. And it wasn't because I didn't believe anymore. Absolutely not. It was my church. It was my church home. I had been going there for a number of years. I was baptized there. Both my kids were baptized with that same pastor. But it was a situation where the person that I was with didn't go to church, but then started going to that church. And we were like already separating. And I just didn't want to go. I didn't, even though we went to 2 separate services because he didn't want to go get up in the morning and I was an early person to go get up in the morning, for early service. But I just felt like that was anxiety also. The fact that I had introduced him to so many people there and now we're going to separate services and I just didn't want to deal with it. And so I just stayed stuck. I stayed stuck at home and I would either watch it online or not at all. And yeah, you might say, you know what? That's dumb. How can you let somebody else dictate to you your spirituality? Well, that's not what happened. But, well, it kind of is what happens. There was a lot more to it. But you know what? In the grand scheme of things, it is. But when you're in that stuck place and you feel so downtrodden, like it says in the Bible, where's the way out? You can't feel it. Have you ever seen the movie Get Out? If you've seen the movie Get Out, do me a favor. In the comment section, even when you're watching the replay, just write Get Out. Get out. When the guy would fall into the sunken place? That's what happens. That's exactly what happened. I was in that sunken place and couldn't see my way out. And so, you would think that I could just pivot and just say, hey, you know what? It's time for you to make a change. Why don't you just get out of there and do something different? Well, if it was that easy, then I guess I would have now, right? If when people are going through a divorce and they want to try to save their marriage, people on the outside may say, well, why don't you just do this? Or why don't you try that? Did you try that in your marriage? Oh, you did? Okay, but you still got divorced, right? Oh, okay. Okay. Like people are so quick to judge. And so I understand that. But we all have our own journey, right? And another reason why we stay is the fear of failure. maybe we have a dream or a vision for ourselves, but we're scared that it may not work out. Do you think I wasn't nervous about moving abroad, leaving everything and everyone I knew in the US and just moving by myself to a country that I didn't speak the language and everybody around me sounds like they're talking pig Latin? Yeah, I took Spanish in fifth grade, and am I fluent? No. I've been there for a few months now. Am I fluent now? No. So, the nervousness was there. People constantly ask me, "What do you mean you're leaving the job? How are you leaving?" "Oh, you'll be back." That was my favorite line. "Oh, you'll be back." People were there, are still there after 20 years, 30 years, and complaining and hating it. I I didn't want to be one of them. I couldn't. My spirit was screaming inside, saying, don't do it. Don't. But in order to see a plan come to life, we have to do something different. And I remember, what time is it? I don't want to keep y'all too long. I remember, well, let me go back and let me get back to my other points first, because let me give you some other reasons why we stay. We stay out of guilt. We stay out of obligation. Obligation because our kids are still in school. And we're afraid of moving them to another school system. And I'm not talking about just about moving abroad. It could be you just don't want to change to the next state or something, but you still feel like it can't be done because whatever that because is, because obviously it's big enough to keep you staying stuck in your situation, even though you want to do something different. And even though when you say it out loud, or even if you don't say it out loud, even when you whisper it to yourself, it sounds right. Because when I was thinking of a change, I had a vision. I had a vision for my change, and I didn't speak it out loud at first. Not for a while, actually. And I could feel it. It was so realistic to me, walking down those cobblestone streets, carrying the grocery bags in my hand. I could feel the tension of the weight of the bags in my hands. I could see myself sitting on my balcony, my feet over the balcony, and just looking around, smiling, the sun shining on my face. I could actually feel that. It was so real to me. And that was my happy place every time the stress and the woes of my situationships got to me. I would go to my happy place. And that's how I manifested it, by doing that and by acting on what I was feeling. We also stay too long out of financial security. Now that one I know is a big one, because we would think like, how am I going to support myself if I don't have my partner's income to contribute? Or how do I survive if I leave my job? I only have my savings, or I don't have any savings. How would I, what would I do? And that can be a big concern. And that can be a big, huge fear, because financial security is, I know that's a big stressor. It's the number one reason for divorce, right? But I had those same stresses, but my stress over my situation was much bigger. It got to the point where I said, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. I don't care whether I am on the brink of bankruptcy. I've got to go. I have to exit. Y'all know they call me the exit queen, right? And they call me the exit queen because, especially now, after I made that decision, look, I'm quick to exit anything or from anyone who is not in line with my values. I'm just not going to put up with it. I am here to help and support anybody who wants to make an exit, who wants to make that transition to a better life, no matter how big or how small it is, because you know why? We deserve it. We deserve it for ourselves. It's part of our self-care. We do not have to stay stuck in misery. I remember when my video went viral for the one that says "I'm out of here" on the front, and I think the subtitle is "It's All Lies." When that video went viral, I had the haters hating, and they all came for me. You can't leave America. You have to stay here and work till you die. I'm telling you, everybody was just in their box talking about you can't leave your box because we can't leave our box. And I just couldn't believe it. And that was when I was still in the job and still in the relationship. But I was like, after, trying to comment feverishly to the thousands, literally hundreds of thousands of people that were commenting, I finally was like laughing because I said, are you serious? Like this is ridiculous for you to feel like, yeah, I'm still American, but you know what? I'm American in Africa. I'm an American in Europe. I'm an American no matter where I go. So what? Why do I have to stay in a box? When people come to the US, they're still where they come from plus American, right? Chinese American, they still are, they have a home territory where they originated, and that's what they're known for first. I'm still American no matter where I go. Yeah, I'm working on my visa for another country, but I'm still an American. So financial security is one. Another one is just hoping that things will get better. How long are you going to stay in the same situation, just hoping and praying that things will get better? How long have you been saying that in that situation? How many times have you said it? And how many people have you told it to? There is an African proverb that says, when you pray, move your feet. Well, we can pray to God, I don't know how many times to deliver us, but at some point, we got to start walking toward the plane. We got to walk toward that airplane so that we can fly. I have a quote that I say as the exit queen, and it's, you don't owe stuck your loyalty. And stuck is all of those situations that are keeping you from exiting. So you don't owe stuck your loyalty. You just don't. Freedom is still available to you. Even if you don't know the next step, it's still there, just waiting for you. For me, what helped me to realize that I needed to make a change, a serious change, was that my mother passed away and my daughter's father passed away all within 1 year's time. And I read like their journal writings of unrealized dreams. And when I read that, I just said, I don't want to die and have my dreams be sitting there 6 feet under. I want to make my time count on this earth. I want my life to count for something. I want to have made a difference. And how am I going to do that if I'm still staying stuck? So that's what I mean when I say staying too long, there's a weight on that. There's a cost that you pay, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically. It's time to exit. Name it. Figure out what it is that's keeping you stuck. And so that way you can put a name to it so that you can move away from it. You got to learn to put up that boundary. And so the final straw for me came when, it was more like a whisper. It was a divine whisper. It really was, because even though it was a while coming for my job, when I was sitting there, my boss called me in for a meeting with the vice president, and they were giving me pushback about taking my vacation days that I was owed. Okay, so you're going to give me pushback on my vacation days and say that it was the wrong time for me to take vacation. Now, this is like the fourth time I took vacation and I still got pushback. Like, it's always the wrong time for me to take vacation. Not to mention they had already given me an issue when my mother passed away, whether they were going to give me 2 bereavement days versus 3. That was an issue too. But this time was different. I knew why they were calling me in there, because I had heard through the grapevine what they were going to talk about. So I went in there numb. I was completely numb, but I had a little like Dorothy Parker smile underneath my nose, if you know that Prince song. When my boss asked me, or when he said to me, you just don't seem happy here anymore. After they gave me the big lecture, and then they said that. And I looked around, and it felt like 10 minutes had passed, but it was only like a split second. And then I watched him doodling. I looked outside. I saw people crossing the street. I looked at the vice president, and, he was like looking down and not acknowledging, what was going on. And then finally I just said, you know what? You're right. I am no longer happy here. It's time for me to go. And I'm exiting at the end of the month, which was going to be in 2.5 weeks. Now, needless to say, the vice president looked up. My boss, he stopped doodling, and he was like, not expecting it at all, because everybody comes back and everybody there complains, and then they say, okay, but maybe they hadn't encountered a Sagittarian, because when we mean something, we do it. We go ahead. Like, don't mess with us. Or like I said, it was a divine whisper. And they, actually my boss, he got teary-eyed, and I've never seen him like that before. And he's not the kind of person who gets emotional. And he said, but I like working with you. And I had to tell him, like, you know what? I like working with you too, but this is just not for me anymore, and I got to go. And, that was the end of that. And as far as the relationship story, and by the way, if you're in the chat, can you just, if this is resonating with you at all, just say yes with an exclamation point so that I know that you're listening and that you're you're getting some value out of this. But as far as the relationship is concerned, I knew I had to exit from that when, you have issues going on continuously, but then it got to the point where, I think I was spending more time in my happy place than I was in the house physically. And one day he was doing something or said something or went somewhere or something happened that I thought was very disrespectful. And he made the comment and said, "Oh, but you're not going anywhere. You're never going anywhere." And again, you don't give an ultimatum to a Sagittarian. You just don't. But to hear that, I was like, "What did you say?" In my mind. In that moment, I knew I had to go. It was time for me to go. And it was just such it wasn't an argument or anything. It was just a nonchalant, "Oh, you're never going to leave." It was like I felt such peace that I was like, this is right. This is right. What does G. Bernie say? What are consequences of staying on the job too long? Yes, those are the ones that I went through. Yeah. So consequences, staying on the job, you have emotional turmoil. You get burnt out mentally, physically. There's so many consequences for staying too long. You keep thinking you're going to be paid what the value that you bring to the job. And it just doesn't happen because who's going to put a price tag on you? What employer? Because their job is to make money off of you. So how do you think that they're going to really value you in a 9-to-5 job? That's not a deal for them. And they're all about making a deal. So we have to know that going in and say, okay, I'm only going to be here a certain amount of time until I get my savings up to par so then I can make my exit. We have to be very strategic about these kinds of things. And again, like I said, one of my issues with staying too long was physical, because going to an office with an hour and a half commute and then sitting in my desk for all those long hours, it took a toll physically. I felt like a pretzel. I could barely walk down the hallway for a long time. I was in PT for a long time. I had x-rays and bone scans and all kinds of things. And because the doctors were trying to figure out what was wrong. And really at first, it was the stress of all of that. But then after a period of time, it really became something almost permanent that I had to work through physically to stretch those pain points out of my body. Yeah. So there's a lot that we go through staying too long in situations. And so that was my turning point with the job and with the relationship. So I just made a decision, you know what, I'm bouncing now. I'm leaving. And it was such a huge weight lifted from me. And I used to carry tension all up in here. And I'd be like, my shoulders were up to my ears when I'd be walking down the hallway. But after a while, I was able to relax after I knew that this is the decision that I'm making for myself, for my life. I began to emerge from that sunken place. Yeah. And so once I left, I finally felt that peace and that freedom that I felt a glimpse of the freedom. It wasn't a complete freedom because I didn't get that until I actually moved. But I could see the finish line. I could see the goal. I could feel it more than I could before. So it wasn't just logistically, but it was emotionally and spiritually. I started to realize, you know what? God had my back all along, and God was whispering to me all along about this is the move you need to make. And I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. I had all these what ifs in my head and all this pushback, like, oh, but they were big buts. And I had to get rid of them. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, I love when you're on my lives. Thank you. I appreciate you. So let me ask you something. Let me ask you all, what version of you did you have to shrink so that you could stay? Or what version are you currently shrinking so that you can stay? And is that version of you still waiting to be set free? That's what I want you to think about. Is something inside of you still waiting to be set free? Because if it is, Lord mercy, don't wait any longer, please. A lot of us, we don't even realize the pressure that we're carrying until we just blow up on somebody or something, or the resentment we feel, or we start to be quick to anger. We don't even realize it until after the fact, or after we're divorced, or after we stop talking to that family member or something. But that version of you that longs for that freedom is still in there. It's just waiting to emerge. It's waiting for you to get clear of all the clutter so that it can emerge. I know that person's buried underneath there. And it's not 6 feet. It's just beneath the surface. It really is. And so, like I said, if you feel any kind of urging at all in your spirit, take heed to this, because this right here, what we're talking about now, this could be your sign. It really could. This could be your sign, and that you're ready to do something different, to make a change. So I want to encourage all of you, please comment below, like this video, share it with somebody you know who needs to make a change, a sister, a brother, somebody. And also join our school community. It's SKOOL. I'll leave it in the show description notes, but that is where we go deeper in our talks. And I have regular chats on there, and we call them Crowns and Coffee. And we talk about the deep stuff. Next week, we'll be talking about the power of community, because we need that support for one another. It's one thing, we just shouldn't be doing it by ourselves. It just takes longer, because when we do things with other people, we shorten down that learning curve. So we're going to go in on that and talk about it. I might even have somebody else talking with me on that day. That's on Wednesday at 3:00 Eastern Standard Time. And also, if you join the school platform, it's called the Freedom Collective. The Freedom Collective. I'll put it all in the show notes. Right after this, I'm going to dinner. I'm so hungry, but because it's almost 9:00 p.m. here in Portugal. But you guys join the Freedom Collective right now. For the next 27 people, it's going to be free to join. And also, I'm building I'm building a speaking course for public speaking, because a lot of us have a lot of things to say. We have something to say, but we're scared, or we don't know how to say it, or we feel like nobody wants to listen. Then if you feel that way, this course is for you. And guess how much it's going to be? $1. $1. Only for the next 27 people, though. For the next 27 people, that course is going to be $1 because I'm building it out. But once it's finished, I'm closing that up, And you will also, when you join the school platform, the Freedom Collective, you'll be lifetime members and get access to everything. So just keep that in mind. So after we finish here, hop on over to school, SKOOL, and join the Freedom Collective. And I'll leave that in the show notes. If you're watching the replay, you can find it there. I'll post it in a few hours. Please give me a chance to eat dinner. Okay. So that's about it for me this evening. If all hearts and minds are clear, that's all I really wanted to say. And I wish you all a good evening. And I love you all for sticking with me. I know you've been there since the beginning. Gee, Bernie, you've been there. Oh my goodness, you've been there. Are men allowed to be part of your community? Absolutely. It's for men and women. So hop on over there and join it. You'll see when you join the school platform, there's a whole bunch of other communities that you can join too. A lot of them are for men. A lot of them are upbuilding and just making people better yourselves. They're really powerful. So I really enjoy being a part of it. So just know that I'm rooting for you, like you're supporting me. It's a two-way street, and I'm here for everybody. If you want to send me direct messages, email me, you know how to reach me. Ooh, somebody's trying to call me during my live. Come on now. Anyway, all right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, and I love you, and I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.